Hey there, it's Laura Dominic. Thanks for joining me on a Plan for Joy podcast. Each week we'll be talking about things that will help you break the cycle of depletion. You know, the one that has you going from doing all the things to feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, resentment, anger, to sucking it up and starting all over again. And instead, learn to break the cycle and contribute from a place of abundance. Are you ready? Good. Let's go. Hello. Welcome back. I'm so glad to be back. I've been taking a break to get my Mom's Finding Joy community up and running. And I've been also kind of trying to discern what part this podcast was going to play in that. A couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go away with some moms, and we were talking, like that's all we did all weekend. We talked about the struggles of being a mother and the overwhelm that comes with it. Each mom had her own story, and each mom had her own way of dealing with the overwhelm that was going on in her life, or not dealing with it. And that's when I realized that this next series of podcasts that I want to do are going to focus on interviewing and talking with other mothers, because I think we can all learn something valuable by hearing the stories of other mothers, even if their stories don't look the same as our own. There's always something we can learn by talking with others. So I want to start this series off. I mean, you've all heard my story in the past, right? So I wanted to start by talking about what overwhelm looks like and how to determine if you're an overwhelmed mother. You see, when I had 7 little kids and I was trying to homeschool all of them and keep up with activities and appointments and my house and feeding everyone and keeping the laundry done and my marriage and my friendships, whatever those were, it was definitely overwhelming, right? It looked like I was the face of overwhelm. But now I don't have a lot of that. My kids are all young adults. I'm done homeschooling. My activities and appointments are much more manageable, and so are my chores. So you would think, she's got a maid. She doesn't have anything to feel overwhelmed about, right? And I think that's what gets women into trouble, is that kind of thinking. Like, I don't have anything to be overwhelmed about. Why do I feel this way? And so it makes you feel wrong. Like I don't have any problems. Why should I feel as bad as I do? And especially if you're going to look at other moms and compare yourself. Maybe you're thinking, well, they seem to be handling even more than I am, and they're doing just fine. Remember, though, that that's usually not the case. They're usually not doing fine, even if they're putting on a good appearance. So let's look at the first few definitions of overwhelm, which I thought were like really weirdly worded, but whatever. Here is where I got them, the Oxford Languages Dictionary. The first few definitions of overwhelm: bury or drown beneath a huge mass, defeat completely, or give too much of a thing to someone. Okay, that's the definitions. So given those definitions, it seems like really only big things should overwhelm us. Okay, which makes us even feel worse for feeling overwhelmed over a bunch of not so big things. So after all, my life appears easier now than it has for the past 20 years. And in some ways it is. But why then have I been feeling so overwhelmed lately? Then I found this definition: being completely overcome by an unruly, intense emotion that something is too challenging to manage to overcome. Okay, I can definitely relate to that one. Overwhelm isn't always a situation or a thing. I mean, it can be for sure, but it can also be an intense feeling or emotion. In other words, it's our perception of what is going on in our lives that can create this overwhelm. It's the lack of knowledge, the lack of awareness, the lack of skills of how to change things that can create this overwhelm too. It's getting stuck in the feelings that can create the overwhelm also. And this is kind of where I'm at today. I'm going to get real here. This is a huge life change that I thought I could plan my way through and come out unscathed. I thought if I just plan it out and I know what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to just breeze through this big, huge change of all my kids being adults and moving on and doing their own thing. But when I got into it, a couple of things happened, really. The first thing being that I realized that my life looks a lot different right now than I thought it would. Although, to be honest, 15 years ago, I didn't know that I'd ever make it to this point. So that's an accomplishment. I need to focus on that. But years ago, when I envisioned getting to the end of my homeschooling days, I thought I'd be helping to plan weddings and watching grandbabies and all that kind of stuff you do when your kids are older, right? Well, that's not my reality right now. And I'm not, again, I'm going to point out here, I'm not blaming or shaming any of my kids. It's just the way it is. It's different than I had imagined, right? And also the world is a lot different. There's a lot of things that are going on that we never thought would be happening 15 years ago. So again, my kids are on their path, the path that is hopefully right for them. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It just looks different than I thought. I've also spent, I think this happens naturally when you're in a change of seasons. I've also spent some time reflecting on the past 25 years. And like most people, you realize how many mistakes you've made. And I'm okay with some of them or a lot of them, really, because I know I did the best I did with the information I had at that time. So, and there's some that I regret, but obviously there's nothing I can do about that. So I need to move forward. And I'm kind of laughing because there's nothing like a documentary about homeschoolers and cults to get you thinking that that time that you got rid of most of your kids' Disney movies and all their Barbies, that maybe there was something going on, but nope, we were never part of a cult or a group like that. But it makes you think, right? So the fact that my kids are grown and happy, responsible human beings is a good thing. I'm ecstatic. It's the way it's supposed to be. But I'm still finding myself in the cycle of depletion because I'm overcome by the unruly and intense emotion of the big change that is set before me. And this can be any change. It doesn't even have to be a change. You could just be downright overwhelmed because you have intense emotions about a situation, right? So I'm overwhelmed. I feel frustrated that there's nobody out there who can make this better. Like my kids can't help me. It's not their job. I mean, my husband can, and he does. Friends who've gone through this can, and they do. But really, it's kind of up to me to use the skills that I have to change things. And of course, God and his grace can do miraculous things too. And then I've moved into the resentful stage at times where, you're on social media and friends of ours are off traveling all over Europe with their kids and having a great time. And of course, everything looks perfect. And I'm like, well, how come we can't do that? How come my life doesn't look like that right now? Or another friend who spent the week with her kids and all her grandchildren on a beach, having a great time, playing with all the grandkids and things. Well, how come my life doesn't look like that right now? What's the problem? So I'm in that comparison, where you look and everything looks perfect and everybody else's life except your own. Resentment. Right? That's the third stage of the cycle of depletion. Again, I just want to point out, I'm not blaming or shaming my kids. I'm very happy for where they're all at in their lives. But I am still looking at other families thinking, well, why can't mine look that way too? So I've realized also during this time that I've not been committing to things. Probably because I'm overwhelmed. I'm not committing, so I'm not doing anything. like I have all these thoughts and ideas in my head, but I haven't moved forward on any of them, probably because of that overwhelm. And so I find myself just kind of passing time and then feeling bad because I'm not accomplishing anything. Fortunately, I have awareness. And so I can recognize where I'm at in this cycle of depletion. And I realized this week that I need to dig into my toolbox really deep this time and get things on track again so I don't move to the anger stage, because nobody wants to be angry and blowing up at people, right? So I'm working on changing my mindset. I'm looking at these are some of the things I'm pulling out of my toolbox. I'm looking at very specific things that I'm grateful for, because gratitude is huge, right? So I'm reflecting on all the good things over the last 25 years and trying not to focus on all the mistakes, right? Think about the good things that have come over this time. I'm spending more time in adoration. That's on my list of things that help me shift my mood. Looking for new things to get involved with. Talk about committing and just stepping out of your comfort zone, insanity, doing the same thing and expecting the different results. Looking to get into new things, which can be uncomfortable. I'm reconnecting with friends, which is still as hard as it used to be, but trying to reconnect with friends and making sure that I'm getting my cup filled so that I can go out and serve others better and just be in a better space mentally. And so you see, overwhelm can look very different depending on what stage of life you're in, or from one person to the next. Just because one part of your life might look easy, another part can become more overwhelming. Maybe you're in that stage of your life where your kids and everything that goes with them are completely overwhelming you. I think a lot of times that's where we expect moms to be. Well, you're overwhelmed because of your kids and because of their activities and because of all the things you have to keep track of. But in reality, maybe you have that under control and you still feel overwhelmed. So maybe it's your marriage. Maybe there's problems there that you're trying to figure out and it's overwhelming you. Maybe it's your finances, especially in our economy today. Finances can be very overwhelming. Maybe it's the state of your house. Maybe it's run down. Maybe it's too small. Maybe it's too big. Maybe it's too messy. I don't know. Whatever it is, the state of your house can be very overwhelming. Maybe you're processing some kind of trauma from your past or recent past. Maybe you've just experienced a major loss. Okay, that's a lot to overwhelm you with, and that you'll have to work on processing, but it's going to just feel so overwhelming. So there's so many different reasons why you could be overwhelmed, and all of them are legitimate, right? Because they're overwhelming you. You can't see a way out, and that's the definition of overwhelm that we're going with. It's this intense emotion that you don't know what to do about. So the first thing you can do, there's a couple things you can do when you're in this cycle of depletion. And the first thing is really the biggest step is becoming aware. Become aware that you are overwhelmed and in this cycle. Maybe you're not going to notice it when you're overwhelmed. Maybe you're going to get to that anger stage before you become aware that this is what's really going on. But ideally, you want to just work on that awareness so that you recognize it sooner. Okay. Then have a toolbox full of things that you can dig into to break the cycle. So maybe you need to really work on your mindset. Maybe you need to do other things. So you need to have that toolbox to help you get out of the cycle of depletion. I want you to resist the urge to judge other people, because you don't know what's overwhelming them. So don't judge somebody else thinking, well, they don't really have it as bad as I do. Why are they so overwhelmed? They should be happy. They should be less overwhelmed because their life looks easy. So resist the urge to overwhelm or to judge. And then resist the urge to compare yourself to other people. Like in the comparison, like I was talking about, why can't my family look like that? Why can't my life look like that? Why can't I feel that good? Why can't I lose the weight? All that kind of stuff. Resist the urge to compare. Focus on what you need to do to end the cycle in your own life. Learn how to deal with your mind. Learn the skills the mindset skills to shift your mindset. And then learn the other skills that are going to help you, the ones you don't have right now, or maybe ones you need to brush up on. And I know I keep saying this, but like boundaries, how to communicate. There's such a inability of people to communicate effectively nowadays. Learn to communicate, learn about making good decisions, learn about how to be resilient, which means getting back up again when you hit that wall. Learn about compassion, learn about gratitude, really learn how to use those tools and those skills. And that is what Moms Finding Joy community is all about. That's why it exists, to help mothers learn how to change their mindset and build essential skills so they can become aware and break the cycle of depletion and find more joy. I mean, I was thinking about it while I was watching that documentary I told you about. And I thought, back when I was overwhelmed because of my life, because of my kids and all the things that went with them, I didn't know where to search. So you just grasp at straws. You're like, maybe this will help. Maybe this will, it's like the Discipline of the Month Club. Maybe this will help me this time. Maybe. I wish I had known then what I know now, in that I needed to work on my mindset and I needed to have some skills that I could pull out of my toolbox and implement at any given time. It wasn't going to be the next best thing out there, the new way, the new discipline program. No, I needed to learn how to be consistent, for gosh sakes. And that goes back to, I needed to learn how to hold boundaries. See, and that even goes back to, I needed to feel worthy. So you got to peel back the layers. And that is going to help you so much as a mother. I can't stress this enough. So I really hope you'll join us in the community. I'll have the link in the show notes, because it's going to teach you the things you need to learn to avoid living in this cycle of depletion over and over and over again. Okay. And then stick around here, because we're going to have some really exciting podcast episodes coming up, talking to different mothers, hearing their stories, learning how they deal or don't deal with the overwhelm in their lives, and just sharing ideas and thoughts with all of you. So go ahead and like this video or podcast episode wherever you're listening to it, and share it with other mothers. Go check out the Moms Finding Joy community. Look into signing up. If you join at the middle level, you'll get a 7-day free trial. So I'll have that link in the show notes too. Then I will see you again next week. God bless.